and welcome to another edition of Did You Know Doctor Who, or what you may not know about Doctor Who. This time we're going to have a look at Dark Water / Death in Heaven. I hope you enjoy. Technically speaking, this is the first appearance of the Brigadier since Battlefield, but he did also appear in the Sarah Jane Adventures. The twist ending of Dark Water was not initially included during the press releases. In fact, when Missy reveals herself, Michelle Gomez and Peter Capaldi mouthed their lines, and the audio recorded and was added at a later date. The story makes several references to classic Cyberman tales, such as the invasion with the Cybermen emerging from St. Paul's, a Cyberman head from the invasion, and the watery tombs based on the tomb of the Cybermen. Another reference is when Osgood points out that they know previous prime ministers, such as the Master, who was under the guise of Harold Saxon. The scene in which Missy is tied to the chair on board the plane was written as a parallel to the Master tying the Doctor to a chair in the End of Time. When the Doctor hands Dr. Chang the psychic paper, it says he is from the government, and Chang questions the amount of swearing on the paper. The Doctor responds with, "I've got a lot of internalized anger." Peter Capaldi is well known for his foul-mouthed Malcolm Tucker in The Thick of It and its spin-off film In the Loop. This story marks the first use of the term Time Lady in the revival series. Stephen Moffat revealed a decoy version of Missy's reveal in the episode was shot in case any members of the public overheard. "You know who I am. I'm Missy, or if you prefer, Random Access Neural Integrator, RANI for short." The plot point of the dead being conscious was controversial enough for the BBC to release a statement defending it after receiving complaints from viewers. This is the second TV story to feature both the Cybermen and the Master, following the 5 Doctors. Both the 11th Doctor's coats and the 10th Doctor's trench coat are visible when Clara steals the TARDIS keys. Michelle Gomez modelled her performance as Missy after Johnny Depp. Clara's birthday is given as November 23rd. The show premiered on November 23rd. Both the name 3W and the presence of Dr. Chang are references to the wheel in space. The Doctor points out that Neversphere is a matrix data slice, referencing the Garfian virtual reality computer that stored the biodata of dead Time Lords, which was introduced in The Deadly Assassin, another Master story. Michelle Gomez's first scene she filmed was when she sucks on the Doctor's nose. By Danny Pink dying, his descendant Orson and Listen wouldn't have been born or even ever existed. However, when questioned about this, Moffat claimed that Orson was actually a grandnephew, not a great-great-great-grandson. This story marks the first time a Time Lord was able to swap gender. Osgood continues to be a walking Doctor costume homage. After wearing a big floppy scarf like the 4th Doctor, her latest outfit has a leather jacket, Converse sneakers, and a burgundy bow tie, favoured by the War, 9th, 10th, and 11th Doctors respectively. For the first time, the Doctor's daughter and granddaughter are mentioned in an episode at once. This is the first story to show a scene mid-end credits. This is the first time that the companion is listed prior to the Doctor during the opening credits. It is also the first time the companion's eyes are used during the title sequences instead of the Doctor's. Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor appears for a second time since his regeneration in The Time of the Doctor, in archived footage from the Spells of St. John. The 12th Doctor drinks his tea with ridiculous amounts of sugar, just like the 3rd and 8th Doctors. This is the first series finale to lead directly to the following Christmas special since the last of the Time Lords. Kate Stewart mentions being divorced and having 2 kids. Gemma Redgrave is divorced and has 2 kids. Right before Missy kills Osgood, she says, "Oh my giddy aunt," which was a quote by the 2nd Doctor. The unmasked Danny Pink was influenced by Darth Vader. Missy tests control the Cybermen by having them turn to the left and right. In Rise of the Cybermen, Mr. Crane does the exact same thing to the mind-controlled people. To keep the appearance of Santa Claus a surprise, Nick Frost was uncredited in Radio Times and on the BBC website. This is the first reference of the term Pyrodonian since the 2005 revival of Doctor Who. And that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Dark Water / Death in Heaven is a good story. It's nothing too special, to be fair, but what really sells this story has to be Missy. I absolutely adore Missy. Missy is fantastic. I love her to bits. It's funny because I was very skeptical at first when they did have her be the Master, because I would have thought, well, why not just use the RANI? It would have made sense. The RANI was a scientist, a mad scientist at that. Her helping the Cybermen, it would have made sense. And she does almost look a bit like the RANI. But then when it was revealed, it's actually just a female version of the Master. Admittedly, it was a bit of a, why did they do that? Why didn't they just go with a more obvious solution? However, Missy is truly fantastic. And while this two-parter doesn't really go into how amazing Missy is, later stories really do, especially Series 10. Like, Missy is just wonderful. I absolutely love her, and I think Michelle Gomez does a fantastic job with Missy and how she portrays Missy. Missy steals the limelight, honestly. She is fantastic. The Brigadier controversy. So a lot of people really don't like the idea that the Brigadier was turned into a Cyberman at the end of this story. Whilst it is kind of nice to see the Brigadier sort of back, at the same time I can understand that it can be seen as a bit disrespectful. I'm on the fence. Like, on one hand, I get why they did it, because, you know, it's great to have the Brigadier sort of back and see him save his daughter in a way. But at the same time, he turned him into a Cyberman, which is kind of, So, I can understand why that's a bit controversial. Getting rid of Danny Pink, not a lot of people really like Danny Pink. I didn't really care for Danny Pink. He's kind of boring, lifeless. In this story, I kind of felt the same way. Like, I sort of forgot about Danny Pink, honestly, in this story. He's that forgettable, but you know, at the same time, you know, Missy does steal the limelight. Clara is somewhat unreasonable in this story. I can see why a lot of people really don't like Clara in this story, because she acts kind of like a bitch. But at the same time, you know, I can sort of understand that her character is meant to be grieving, and all that. That said, overall, this is a very good story. I do quite enjoy it. Is it one of my favourite Cyberman stories? Of course not. Is it one of my favourite Master stories? Of course not. But it has a lot of great moments in it, and that's what makes it seem like a much better story than it probably actually is. I've said this before about Peter Capaldi, his Doctor Who run. His run starts off pretty rough and ends on a bang. Like, you know, his final season is fantastic, but his first season was a little bit of a hurdle to get around. But nonetheless, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Did You Know Doctor Who, and I'll see you next time.